I'm Roy Potter, a former U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel. Welcome to the Potter Expositor. Hi ladies and gentlemen, today is November 18th, 2017, and I wasn't going to do this, at least not this early. There are a lot of things going on around here. I'm using a lapel mic to try to cut out some of the extraneous noise in the background. You know how Saturdays are. But I've had so many questions on Twitter. I haven't even looked at my YouTube posts that I put up as far as looking at comments. Like I told you, I've kind of gotten out of that habit. Maybe that's not very polite of me, very sociable, but it's just a lot to do. So I just looking at the questions I'm getting on Twitter, I just figured that probably many of the same questions are on YouTube. So that's why I'm doing this video here. Of course, it'll be on YouTube and I'll load it up on Twitter as well. It centers around why I did this explanation of the Hebrew in certain of Q's posts on 4chan having to do with Donald Trump and overthrowing the New World Order. And I'll refer you back to those videos for the previous information. I don't want to recover it because I don't want people to sit here and have to go through all that again. This study of mine took decades, okay, under the tutelage of people that understood these systems, partly in my military career, code information, and then the scriptural side too. And there are other systems. This is just the one that I've concentrated on, and apparently it's going to serve me well, and you too if you get into it, because of the nature of what's happening in the world right now. Now, I was going to show you the books, and I've done videos like this before. I've done videos in the past. If you go back, you'll see them. Of course, that'd take you some time. There are too many of them now, but where I've talked about the Hebrew and what it means and the different levels of meaning and all of that. I'm going to have to touch on that here a little bit today because of the nature of what we're doing. But, you know, I'm not alone in this study. There are a lot of people that have done this. And you can too, and I just want to open this up to you. I'm going to tell you right now. I was going to show you the books, but I think it's better if I just tell you. Get a Strong's Concordance, okay, with the Hebrew and the Greek words in the back. You know, it's a numbering system. The number in the King James Version for a word will match into Strong's Concordance, which will match into the Hebrew and Greek lexicon. That's the first book you need. The second is called a Gesenius, and it's a Hebrew lexicon, okay? And it explains to you all the different Hebrew words. So anybody can do this. It's just that I've been doing it for a long time. Those are the best things to use to start. So again, a Gesenius, Gesenius, Hebrew Greek lexicon or something similar, and a Strong's Concordance with the Hebrew and the Greek definitions in the back of the book. And it's a numbering system, cross-referencing system with the King James Version. There is another book you could probably get if you want to, and it's the Hebrew Greek English translation of the Bible. It has all three languages in it, and that's another good way to help you study. Now, I've done a lot more than that, obviously. I'm going to mention some things here you've probably never heard of, but Arya Kaplan, who was a rabbi in the Jewish religion, Jewish faith, has written a number of books. I think he died a few years ago. I don't think he's around anymore, but there are a lot of people that have done the same thing. And he has some explanations and I won't name all the books that he's written, but that shows you some of the more esoteric ways to to understand the Hebrew in its basics, okay, as far as, you know, how it's written and what the letters mean and things like that. So I'll just leave that. There are more out there, but they probably get too complicated at this point. So let me just show you a little bit more about what we were talking about, and then you can take it from there, okay? So this is kind of like a little class more than anything else. What I did was, and I may have failed to explain this adequately, so let me show you what I did. Here's the board that we were using before, right? 4, 10, and 20. In Q's responses, he used 4, 10, and 20, and people associated that with the alphabet, you know, and got the 4th letter D, the 10th letter J, and the 20th letter T. And when people started to look up, after I gave this class, started to look up the Hebrew words, they went and they did a similar comparison type thing where they took the number of the letters in the Hebrew alphabet. And that's not what Q's doing here, okay? So let me just make that clear. And I'm going to show you that in a minute, what it would be if it was the 20th letter in the Hebrew alphabet. But that's definitely not what Q is doing. And it's real obvious when you look at it. So what I came to, of course, was taking it from right to left, and we got the Hebrew word keed, which means to ensnare, to defeat, destruction, calamity, those types of things. So I'm going to erase part of this now, okay? So we're going to be done with this for right now. And we're going to put something else up here. I'm going to leave the 4, 10, and 20 for you right now because I think that's kind of critical that you understand. When I went back, when I first saw this and I realized what it was, I decided that it couldn't be the actual letters of the Hebrew alphabet, and that was kind of one of those stumbling blocks, if you will, in the code that you could make a mistake upon. So what I did, and I'll show you this here, if you use the same letters in the Hebrew alphabet, remember the way I did it was Kaf, right, Yod, and Dalet. Okay, can you see those? Sometimes I don't write so well. That's what I went with, okay? And why? I used the numeric values of the Hebrew alphabets, not their position in the alphabet, in the aleph-bet of the Hebrew. The 4th is Dalet, the 10th is Yod, but the letter that has the numeric value of 20, not the position in the Hebrew aleph-bet, but the numeric value is Kaf, that has the value of 20. And so that's why I used it, because I realized that that's what Q was referring to. What would happen if instead of using the Kaf, we used the 20th position letter in the Hebrew alphabet? What you'd have is a resh, okay? And then a Yod, and then a Dalet, okay? When you go into the biblical Hebrew, which is what all this is built upon, all of this code will be built upon, there's no such word as that, which was my first clue. Now I could do what's called a tamura or thashrak on it and change the sequence. In other words, go Dalet, Yod, Resh, but I ran into the same thing. Okay, it's still not a word in the biblical Hebrew. And you can find all this out in Strong's and in the Gesenius and all that, okay? So I pretty much rejected this. Now what I can do, and I did, and I mentioned it in the first video, the long one, the 30-minute one, or maybe it was the one after that. Anyway, one of the ones I've done, maybe it was a live stream. You can do a thing what's called notaricon dissection of a word. It's basically a distilled definition, an extracted definition, when you don't actually have a word. You know, it's sort of like what we do in the English language when computers or anything else, new technology comes out, you make a new vocabulary, right? So you can do that. And I use that notaricon distillation, extraction, to see if I could come up with a meaning to this word that doesn't actually exist in the Hebrew, but a meaning to that word, both in reading it from right to left and from reading it to left to right. And it's not bad. The idea would be either way, somebody in power ahead using their hand to open a door. So it's very similar, okay? But it didn't impact it enough for me to use that in my explanation. Again, you won't find that in the Hebrew lexicon, or you won't find it in Strong's or the Gesenius. It's an extracted or distilled definition just from throwing these letters out there according to their position in the alphabet. But that's not what Q is doing, and I'm going to explain that again. It's not the position in the Hebrew alphabet that he was going on, even though it appeared that he did do it in the English alphabet. But that's just, again, you got to have eyes to see and ears to hear, and training and understanding in all this helps a lot. So we're going to eliminate this like I did before. We're not going to talk about that, okay? That's gone. In Hebrew, there's a system called pardes, and it's 4 different levels of meaning, okay? Basically, it's the literal meaning, the meaning it means to you, kind of a broader applied meaning, and then an esoteric or a meaning underneath. It's kind of those things. That's probably the easiest way to explain it. It's a 4-level system, PRDS, and the last S, the S in that, stands for Sod. And Sod is what we're doing here. We're looking at the hidden meaning of this based upon studying it from a position of Netarchon, which is the meaning of the individual letters as they build the word. And you can also dissect even the letters into separate meanings by distilling and expanding them out too. But now I'm getting into some really complicated things. And this is all legitimate. This is why Hebrew is such a beautiful and important language for our study, is because of these hidden and secret things that you can find. Not that they're secret or hidden because nobody wants you to know them. It's just to show God's majesty. It's really incredible when you get into it, okay? So the first thing is Netarchon, okay? The distillation or extraction of information by dissecting the words into their component letters and then applying the meanings to that, which will build the meaning of the word. Then you have what's called gematria, which is what we're doing here, assigning the numeric values to the letters. Okay, that's gematria, and you can do lots of things with gematria. You know, it's not, I don't want to call it numerology, but it's using numbers as part of the code. For instance, and I'm going to show you this here in just a minute, in another word that somebody asked me to expand upon. But Isaiah in the Old Testament, when he would write, sometimes he would change a letter in a word. And it's not that he didn't know how to spell the word, it's that he's sending another code by using a numeric value, okay? And so if you understand that, and then you expand on the word, you use the gematria to build it out that way, you can understand another meaning at what he's trying to get to, okay? That's kind of the situation that's going on here. And then you have another thing at play, which I've talked about in other videos, and that's the vowels. You notice there are no vowels. These are all consonants. They're consonant sounds. The vowels are still available, but they're never written that way in the biblical Hebrew. You can find it in Bibles that have the vowel points, but they were added a millennia probably after, well, not quite that long, but hundreds and hundreds of years after the original manuscripts were written. And that's because, again, there are different levels of meaning. But they basically came upon an agreement on what the scripture would say, so then they put specific vowels in. But if you change the vowels, it changes the meaning of the word. And I've used this example before. It's like read, right? Read a book would be R-E-A-D, using those sets of vowels. But what if I mean reed like a reed growing in a pond? That's R-E-E-D. You see the difference? Well, that's what you find when you change the vowels in Hebrew. Okay, so here we are with this, and I've already shown you that it's not a position in the Hebrew alphabet. It's a numeric equivalent, a gematria is what they call it. Okay, so I wanted to show you also another situation that was asked about, and I had done this thing with the 4, 10, and 20, And then I noticed somebody, it was when I was doing my live stream, somebody asked, and pardon me, I don't remember, a live stream on YouTube, asked me, well, what is the meaning of 1018? Because Q had put 1018 in there as well. And that's very interesting that he did that. And I'm going to show you why here, okay? But I don't want to take a lot of time on all of this. Part of the excitement, part of the thing of what Q is doing is getting us to expand our minds and expand our questions, expand our observations, become people that are watching what's going on, observing what's going on, because that influences, you know, the overall flow that can actually change where we are in the world and what's happening in the world. I have my own ideas on what, for instance, the rapture is, and I don't think it's going up in the clouds, and I've talked about that before. It's more almost of an, and some people aren't going to like this, but more of a new age idea of an awakening. The people see the bigger picture and they don't follow the evil anymore. It's a changing, it's going to change the world. The old world will be destroyed. It will go away. All right. But when Jesus talked about that in the first century, he was talking about the Roman world was going to go away. He didn't mean the earth would be destroyed. And I know there's a lot of disagreement on, you know, the earth is going to pass away and there'll be a new heaven and a new earth. But all of these are euphemisms. Okay. And I'm not going to really get into that. I've talked about it before. It's like, you know, 1,000 years from now, somebody digs up a book and, you know, it's a play or whatever, and it says, one character saying to another, what's wrong with you? A cat got your tongue? You know, and they're going to think, what, we've got a real cat hanging onto our tongue? No, it just means that we can't speak. You know, we've kind of flustered and we're not talking. So those are the kinds of mistakes you can get into if you don't understand the euphemisms of the time. Okay, well, let's go to this because I think this is very, very interesting. Let me make sure I covered this other thing that I wanted to. Okay, yeah, I did. All right. So the 1018. That's going to be another word. Is this the 10 code that they use in police departments? No, I don't think so. It would be outside of the context of Q's explanation. So I don't think it's a 10 code. Plus the fact that if it were a 10 code, although there is one standard 10 code, it still isn't followed across the nation. LA, for instance, the LA Police Department uses pretty much a basic or a 10 code that's different than a lot of other places, and that happens frequently around the country. So that's not what this is. It's not a 10 code, but this is going to be fascinating to you. Okay. In Hebrew, some letters can be exchanged and the basic same meaning is there. The only thing that changes is the number value, which is part of interpreting the next layer of meaning. But one of the letters that is often switched for the other one is this one compared to this one. Do you see the difference? This is a hey, this is a number 5 in the Hebrew alphabet. It's in the number 5 position, but it also has the gematria or the number value of 5. All right? This is a chet. It's in the 8th position in the Hebrew alphabet, and it means 8. Interestingly, right? Okay. You notice the difference here, that the chet is closed on this side. I should have a pointer here, but you'll notice on this side here, it's a solid line, right? There's no break, but in the hey, there is a break. Now this particular word, hey, means window. That's its basic distilled meaning of the letter. A chet, on the other hand, is a barrier, is a wall, all right? A protection, okay? Kind of like a wall, all right, is basically what it is. So they're two different words, or two different letters, but often they're interchanged by the prophets in particular in the Old Testament. And let's put up the 18 here so you'll see, or the 1018, so you'll know what's going on. The number 10, the Hebrew letter that matches the numeric value of 10, and it's also the position of number 10 in the Hebrew alphabet, is Yod. That little tiny thing right there that was in keyed. That one right there, okay? That's the number 10, see? And that's where I show it here. 10 is the yod, right? In the Hebrew alphabet, that'll be the 10. Now we have to do the 18, right? And I should do this the other way around. Well, we'll just do it this way, okay? We're going to do it this way. We're going to go ahead and reverse this, because I'm going to show you something fascinating about what Q put up here. Okay, so there's the 10, the yod, right? Well, how do you write 18? 18 is 10, that's a yod, plus what? A chet. Okay, that's 18 in the Hebrew. All right, 10 with a 10 and an 8. Okay, I'm sorry, 18 is 10 and 8, and then 10, 18 is 10 and 18. Do you see that? Am I making that clear enough now? This is a 10. This is a 10 plus an 8, which equals 18, right? Do you notice anything funny about that word? Do you know what l'chai is in Hebrew? Chai. Chai is life. This is reversed here. It's yich sound rather than k sound, okay? But I'm going to show you why it's the same thing. In the Hebrew, there are things called cognates. And they're relatively the same. When you spell, most of you will know about Yahweh and Yah, right? Well, Yah is spelled like this. I'm going to do it over here, okay, with a hey. All right, do you see that? It's got the window in it. That's one of the names of God, is Yah. All right, and Yahweh, as most of you are aware, comes from that. Well, what we have here is a word where hey and chet are often exchanged in the Hebrew language to convey other meanings for other situations. But it's basically still the same word, and I'm not going to get into it any further than that. A real good example is the name for Eve, the first mother, which is Chava. Chava, okay? But you can use either the hey or the chet in that situation. So what was the point of Q putting 18 down there? He's telling you that God's in charge, that this is about the rejuvenation of life, the restoration of real life, not the slavery that the New World Order and Satan's dominion wants to place on us, but that life is coming forth again. It's going to be restored. This is a palindrome. In other words, it reads the same way forwards or backwards. Let's put it together so you can see it. There's the yod, there's the chet, and there's the yod. Do you, whoops, standing up and doing this, I sometimes slip. Do you see that? No matter which way you read that, forward or backwards, it's the same thing. And in essence, what it means in Hebrew is live. Live life. You're going to be set free to live life. That's the message he was sending. Okay? That's why Trump and God and all of this is happening. To free us from the slavery, the chains of these demons that have been controlling the world for thousands of years. It's coming, ladies and gentlemen. And this is the beginning of it. This is the revealing of the evil in the world and allowing good to come back in. Isn't that fascinating? Okay, I could spend a lot more time on a lot of things, but I wanted to clear that up. I hope that was of interest to you, and of course, as usual, I go over 15 minutes. But these things are special, and if it weren't for this, I was wondering about Q. Of course, you always do, and you've got to be careful if people will post as Q when they're not. All right, so there are other things you have to do to check to make sure it's the same person, and that's sometimes kind of difficult. And there are ways to do that, which we won't go into here, but go ahead and get your Strong's, if you're really interested in how this works, get your Strong's Concordance and your Gesenius, and start doing this, because it only makes sense as I said in the video, when I showed you the triangle with the 3 sides, actually I didn't draw the triangle, I talked about it, but that those are all basically Jewish influences. Not Judahite, not Israelite. Okay, there is a difference, and I've talked about that before, as you know. But the Hebrew plays a big part in what's happening in the world right now. It's central. It's central to understanding both the good and the evil in the world today. The language itself is essential to understanding what's happening. That's why Q did this. Because of who he's speaking to, for one, when he told them, I'm going to take you out, the Rothschilds, right? You know, good point. All right, it's been a long program here. I didn't really want it to take this long, but I hope that I cleared up some things, and there's a lot more that we could talk about, but we want to concentrate basically on this kind of a concept. Somebody else might find another sense of code in Q, or new things that will come out. This is only one aspect. If the people behind this are the people that I think are behind it, they're super intelligent, very, very intelligent, and there could be even multiple layers of meaning in these things, which I've kind of shown anyway. All right. All right, well, that's all for today. I hope you all are having a great day on Saturday. I don't know how long it'll take me to get this up. The processing takes quite a while, but thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time out here.